Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with a different kind of video. Yes, as you can see, we've got a number of different things in front of us today, and they're all very old models. Well, they're not too old at this point, but they were at the beginning of 3rd edition Age of Sigmar, and Gavriel Sureheart was quite early on, or late in 2nd, I think. Anyway, these are quite old models, so I wanted to make a video about painting them, because I've been painting some Stormcast, as you can see back here, and I've been really enjoying it. And I wanted to make a video about all of these. One, because Gavriel Sureheart here is a Christmas present for Adam. And we've got the Stormstrike Chariot, which has got some interesting cool bits. We've got some Vigilors, and we've got some Vanquishers. Now, I didn't think that having kind of full how to paint Vanquishers, how to paint Vigilors, how to paint the Stormstrike Chariot would be a particularly interesting set of videos. But what I did think would be a particularly interesting video would be to make some recipes out of this one, to also give you a kind of a how I kind of approach painting this amount of miniatures at the same time, and also just to kind of clear my backlog. You see, I've got a 2,000 point Hammers of Sigmar list that involves 5 Vanquishers, 5 Vigilors, a Stormstrike Chariot. And then we have our 10 Vindictors that we've already done a long time ago. We have Bastion Carthalos, we have a Knight Draconis, we have Stormdrake Guard up the wazoo, and all that good stuff. And, well, to finish off a 2,000 point army, I literally just need to clear these from my backlog. And I just love Stormcast. I just wanted to do something just for me. So this video is a clearing my backlog, part 1. For the Stormcast Eternals, because, well, I've got more Stormcast Eternals to do, of course, as you would have seen when we did our Knight Judicator video not too long ago, or indeed if it hasn't come out yet, it's coming very soon. I've shared a picture of it online, it's on its way. We've got Hallowed Knights on the way, Celestial Vindicators as well. We've got to finish all of that up, because I want to get it all cleared, because if AOS 4 is on the way, then I can pick either a new Stormhost or I can really ramp up for the others. So this is part 1 of a Stormcast clearing the backlog type thing. And also it's just good to get through the pile of potential, you see. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting up all of this in this video. This is a how to paint Gavriel Sureheart, how to paint the Vanquishers, the Vigilors, and the Stormstrike Chariot. That's what we're doing, you see. So there's a lot to do in one video, but it just makes sense to me. This is how we're doing things. So we'll probably focus mostly on the Gryph-Chargers. We'll do all of the gold and all of the blue and all that stuff at the same time. We'll probably pull out some short videos on how to do the exact recipes as well, just so that you can enjoy that if you need that quick reference point rather than watch the whole video or something like that. That's just kind of what we're doing. We're kind of just rolling with it, doing something new here, something terrifyingly new. Anyway, it's all been primed in Wraithbone because, well, these are all going to be Hammers of Sigmar, as already mentioned. So Wraithbone is what we always prime in. So, well, I guess we're just going to jump in and we're going to start doing it. So grab your paints, grab your brushes, and let's get started. The place we're going to start is on the Stormstrike Chariot, because all of the infantry and things like that is exactly the same. So we'll basically get the Gryph-Chargers themselves done, and then we can just kind of put this one down and move off whilst we're painting these at the same time as the rest of them. So, colour we're going to be using first is Seraphim Sepia, and we'll be applying this over the top of the entirety of the Gryph-Hound's flesh, or Gryph-Charger's flesh, that's what they are. So we're just going to start here. Take it in sections, as I always like to do, and we're going to get this over the top, just like this. Now you don't need too much on your brush here. You want to get a nice smooth coat, because this is pretty much going to be as close as we get to the final colour. For the Gryph-Chargers. We're of course going to brighten it up. once we get there. But for now, this is a really cool model to kind of practice, get a bit of brush control and kind of painting fully assembled miniatures with, because it's not too difficult to get your brush into these areas, but there is a bit of a challenge in terms of getting the right angles of said dangles. So as you can see, this bit's pretty easy here because it's nice and open. But what you'll have noticed is when I went to get right under there, is we came at it from this angle here to get there. It's kind of shrouded in shadow at the moment on the camera. But it's really good to kind of get that practice in. You could of course do this completely in sub-assemblies. That would be fine. As you know, I don't like to do that. I like to build my models fully so I can visualize. And also, if I want to do is just play with them straight away, you know. There we go. There's the first half of the Stormstrike Chariot of one of the Gryph-Chargers. And we can just do this little bit between the belts. Or girths, I believe is what they're called. Can't remember. I always have this with cavalry. I always forget to look it up. That's just what we do around here. Now we're going to go on and move on to the back. Now this bit will be a little bit trickier because it is a lot more open. But that is okay. Don't worry too much because, well, you can just get that little section done and then we can start down here at the other end, which does seem a little bit weird, but it means we can come up here to that knee like that. Get that bit done just there. Come up behind the back of the leg, because this is a natural crease in the Charger's flesh. You can turn it around and then come at it from this angle here to get the inside leg done, because it's very easy to forget to do that. And then right under there we've got the rest of the knee to do, and the underside of his belly. So now that's an entire leg done. So what we can do is we can now bring this up like that, and we can come over the hind quarters. Like that. We don't need to do the tail just yet, but what we do now need to do is flip it over. We now need to do the other hind quarter, because that's where we finished the last bit. So we can bring this down to the back of the leg. Back of the knee, I should say. Like that. Make sure we got the inside track as well. And then we can come at it from this angle to make sure we get the rest of it. Like that. Then we got under here. Again, that's quite a difficult angle to show on camera. You can see which way I'm coming at it with the brush, just to make sure we've got it all. Just a little bit there that I've missed. There we go. And we've got it. So now we can come down the rest of the leg. Like that. turn it round. Just absorb that little puddle that was developing there. We don't want that too dark just in there. I'm just going to checking for bits that I've missed. Yeah, the inside front of the leg back here. You can always just kind of come at it straight down here. Brush should be long enough to reach. There we go. And then all that's left is to do the tail, which will come out from this angle. Just like that. Again, just make sure you get the underside because you don't want to forget it. There we go. So that's one down, one to go. Once all that Seraphim Sepia is applied across both of the Gryph-Chargers, what we're going to do is we're going to take roughly 4 parts Gore-Grunta Fur to 2 parts Contrast Medium. It's basically a 2 to 1, but I've done 4 and 2. What we're going to do is we're going to use this to do a little bit of blending, a little bit of blocking in on the Gryph-Chargers. So we're going to start here on the tails. So we're going to apply this like this, and we're going to put it all over the top of the tip of the tail. We're going to come up to around about halfway, like that. Then going to wash the brush. Then we're going to dab off the water. And then we're going to blend it out. Like that along the tail. Like so. Do the same thing on the other side, of course. Make sure we get the under bit. Wash the brush. Dab off the water. Then we're going to blend it out. Just like that. There we go. It's a little bit rough, but that's okay because we are going to be highlighting a little bit later. What we're also going to do with the Gore-Grunta Fur is we're going to be applying this over the top of all of the feathers across our Gryph-Chargers. Really want to load the brush up here and get this all over. You basically want to come up to where the beak is. Like this. we go. But then what we're also going to do here is going to apply this over these feathers here. Like that. Blocking the bits I've missed. And then down the legs, we want to add a little bit of the Gore-Grunta Fur. Like that. Wash the brush. Touch off the water. Then we want to kind of roughly give it a bit of a blending. Like that. And of course we've got the other leg to do this on as well. Just like that sort of thing. So once that's all done, we're going to then take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angels Red and Gore-Grunta Fur, and we're going to apply this over top of all of the feathers. Like this. I'm going to go over the top of the heads as well. Like that. We of course want to go over the top of these feathers too. Like that. We've got this side as well. There we go. And what we're also going to do here is going to apply this over the top of the tail. Bring it around about halfway up. And then we're going to wash the brush. Touch off the excess water. Then we're going to blend that once more. Like that. And naturally, well, hang on, we'll finish the tail so we don't get any awkward drying lines that we don't want. Wash the brush. the old blendy. Check the back. Make sure we got that. And on top of the skin, apply a little bit like that. Wash the brush, touch off the water. And then once again, give it the old blendy. So with that all done, it's looking pretty glorious. So what we're going to do now, before we continue on with any other details, is we're going to do a little bit of dry brushing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Wraithbone and we're going to use our small dry brush here and work it into some tissue paper, just like this, until we're happy with it. Like that, don't need very much at all. And over the top of the Seraphim Sepia remaining muscles, what we're going to do is we're going to dry brush this in a circular motion. We're looking to go clockwise and anti-clockwise just to really make sure we cover it. What we're looking to do is brighten up those kind of brighter areas of the skin. Make it really soft and supple. Smooth out any inconsistencies in our blends. We just bring it down the tail just a little bit, like that. And leave a really nice subtle shading in the recesses. Just like that. A little bit more paint. Work it into the bristles. Like so. And we're just going to get back to it. And the reason we're doing this now is so that we don't end up accidentally dry brush highlighting the straps and things, which are going to be a different colour. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to do a little bit of freehand marking nonsense. So over the top of the Gryph-Chargers, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. And starting down here, is we're going to kind of stipple this over the top of the tail. Like this. And we'll start bringing it onto the back. Like that. Still sticking with Gore-Grunta Fur. What we're then going to do is very gently stipple down. Three lines. Like that. And then do the same thing on the other side, like that. Look a little bit rough at first, but don't worry. Similarly, down here on the leg, I'm going to do the same thing. And we've got the other one to do as well. With that Gore-Grunta Fur applied, we then want to very carefully take a tiny amount of Cygor Brown, and on the inside of this, we want to add a little bit more, just on the back here. Just like that. And with that now done, we're going to take some Guilliman Flesh. And we're going to stipple this over the top of all of it, and we're going to kind of blend it out as well. So we're going to start around here on this one. So we're going to stipple this. Like that. Then we're going to wash the brush. Just like that. Just building it up. Washing the brush. Just like that. And so with that done and drying, it's now time to move on to the next colour, which is going to be some Black Legion. And we're going to apply this over the top of the horns and the leather. What we'll also do is apply this over the eyeballs. Just to save time. We'll also apply this over the claws. Still continuing with Black Legion, because it's not really on the Gryph-Chargers, it is on the Chariot itself. What we're going to start doing here is picking out all of the kind of wood structure. Now, you only really have to be careful just around here on the armour of the Gryph-Chargers, because that's going to be a different colour. But we want to get this section here done. Like that. We've then got this main part here. It then overlaps to that little section just there. And then there's the underside of that bar. Like that. We then skip over to the next part of the chariot itself, which is all of this base. So I'm starting on the underside, but we want to get all of this bit done. And that. Then we've got the full underside of the chariot itself. which you can come through the wheel arches to get at, which doesn't matter if you get any on the wheels because they're going to be metallic. And of course, there's the other side of the chariot base here as well, like that. And then we have the inside floor of the chariot as well. And it's at this point you can also do their boots. Something slightly easier, we're going to take some Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to apply this over the top of the beaks. And with that Gryph-Charger Grey applied, it's now back to more difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Talassar Blue. I'm going to apply this over the top of what will be all the blue armour. It's not the final colour by any stretch of the imagination. But it is our pre-shade. The more difficult part is around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in there. Don't worry about getting it on the lightning around the sigil. That's okay. And so with all that Talassar Blue applied, we're then going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Talassar Blue. I'm going to So with all of that Talassar Blue applied, we're now going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Ultramarines Blue. I'm going to apply this over the top. And so with all of that blue now applied, don't worry if it's a little bit patchy, we can clean that up a little bit later. What we're going to do is we're going to then take some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to paint in pretty much all of the remaining armour. There is a bit of extra gold detailing as well to do. For example, the large sigil on the front of the chariot and the trim on the chariot. So we'll demonstrate as much of that as possible. We've got these little shields on the front of our Gryph-Chargers. Like that. We've got the large sigil. There, like that. We've got this whole bit on the chariot, including the gem. Like that. And it is at this point where we're also going to start painting in the gold armour. Like that. And that's where we're going to pop this to one side. And we're going to start painting this on all of our infantry. With all of that gold applied, there's a lot of gold, as you'd expect on the hammers of Sigmar. What we're going to do now is going to once again do the blue. So we're going to take Talassar Blue once more. We're going to apply this over the top of any cloth. Which is this bit here. On our chariot. We're also going to apply this over the top of any shoulder guards. Like that. And we're also going to apply this over the outside of all the cloaks. like that sort of thing. Additionally, on Gavriel Sureheart, we're going to apply this over the top of his Beturges, so these bits down here. And don't worry if you do, as I've just done, get a bit of Talassar Blue on the gold. That's okay, because we can neaten it up. Like that sort of thing. There is another one just here. Like that. And as well as the outside of his cloak, we're also going to paint in the field of the shield. And just like before on the Chariot, what we're now going to do is we're going to take our roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Ultramarines Blue. We're going to apply this over the top of all the blue. With our two mainest of main colours on here now, what we're going to do is move on to Black Legion once again. I'm going to use this to colour in all of the kind of soft joints in all of the armour. Just like that sort of thing. And we're also going to use this to paint in any gloves. just like that. Now, uniquely to Gavriel Sureheart, we have all the same things, but what we're also going to paint in is his hair, as well as all of his leather details. I'm not doing this for everyone, just for him. So you'll spot things like in this elbow, you've got the strap. That goes across the joint. That is also going to be black. Whilst he doesn't have a lot of leather details, he does have just an inkling of belt. Just there like that. As well as a tiny little bit of his scabbard that you can see just in here. So with that Black Legion all applied, again, don't worry if you've got Black Legion on any of your gold. We are going to be tidying it up. So what we're going to do is move on to the next colour, which is going to be some Blood Angels Red. And we're going to apply this over the top of any helmet plumes and any soft grips on any weapons. It's got this really cool Centurion-like. Well, hoplite, I guess. More Greek than it is Roman. There we go. Like that. We've got this helmet plume here as well, of course. Then we've got the grips. On the weapons. With all of that Black Legion applied, we've now got some more fiddliness to do in the form of some Cygor Brown. And we're applying this over the top of all of the leather details. So we've got things like belts and pouches and quivers and things like that. So we're just going to very carefully apply this over the top of the belt just here. For example, we've got the two little clasps up here. And here. We've got the ones on the armour. Like that. And when it comes to things like the arm bits, always just flip them over just to check that you've got it all. What we're also going to be doing is we're going to be applying this over the top of things like scabbards. So we've got one just here. As you can see, this is the reason why we didn't do all the gold at once. We've of course got his belt too. Like that. However, because we're working on lots of different things at once, nearly just threw that on the floor. We have our bows as well on our Vigilors. If we want to apply this over. So with all that Cygor Brown applied, we're now going to take on what is probably the largest remaining colour, which is all the silver. And that's pretty much all the remaining details except the inside of their cape and the iconography on the shoulders. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher. I'm going to start applying this over the top of all of these details. So this is things like the wheels, of course. We've got the weapons and things like that. All that good stuff. There's a lot of silver to apply. So it might take a couple of thin coats, especially on these larger areas. We just want to get this on. Just like this. Find painting the entirety of a side of a large metal piece like this, especially when there's so many kind of edges and things. Really helps you not kind of miss bits. The thing to check is inside edges and stuff like that, because it's very easy just to kind of miss just a little bit of those. We're now onto the stage where we're painting in kind of specific details for the miniatures. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Guilliman Flesh and we're going to apply this over Gavriel's face. With that Guilliman Flesh applied, we then take some Skeleton Horde and we apply this over top of any parchment, but as well as any bowstrings. So with that all done, there are just two colours left to do. Now we have the white and we have to redo the gold. Not all of it, we just need to kind of tidy up any mistakes that we might have made as we've gone around. So what we're going to do is we're going to once again use some Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this just to tidy up some of the mistakes. So I've got one just here on the chest of this individual. There, like that. It's a bit of a hunt. We've got some just here on these pauldrons, not pauldrons, not called pauldrons. I don't know what the hip plates are called. Somebody in the comments tell me. We've got areas like these kind of pommels and things on the weapons, which we haven't done because of all that red. I've got a little blob of black on that plate of armour just there. like so. There's a little gem just up here on the axe. We've got this little bit of trim on the axe as well. Same on the spear. We've got the detailing on the sheath. There's a lot of gold. The gold work is never done on the hammers of Sigmar. So believe it or not, that's us with all of our base coats on. I know what you're thinking, he hasn't done the white. Well, that's what we're about to do now. But at the same time as the white, we're also going to be shading all of the silver, and on the chariot specifically, the hard black details. So this is going to be the base of the chariot. Now, the reason we're using the Nuln Oil over the top of the white is because, one, we just want to shade the Wraithbone. We want it to be a nice soft and supple white. And, well, the easiest way to do this is to just apply the Nuln Oil over the top of these details. Just like this. And we want to be really careful here. Now, if you've got blue or gold or black or something on your white details, that's okay. Because when we take it to the next level, we're going to be relayering it. However, if you want to, you can skip this part, as it were. You can just relayer these details with the white if you wish. But trust me, it's really effective what we're going to be doing. And this goes the same for areas such as the lightning bolts and conclave markings and all of that stuff that are white. So the bits on the shoulders, it's like this sigil here. I'm just going to apply the Nuln Oil over the top. And just to clarify, I know I keep calling it white. It is still Wraithbone. You've not missed a step. So with that done, some of those white details, like the lightning around the sigil and the front of the chariot, are going to look a little bit rough, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it in just a minute. Before we do that, we need to do another shade, and this is going to be a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Fyreslayer Flesh. And we're going to use this to now shade all of the gold. Now here you could use something like Reikland Fleshshade if you wanted a less warm shade. Or you could go for something like Guilliman Flesh. But I really like how brown Fyreslayer Flesh comes out over the top of gold. I think it just looks gorgeous. It's also in this kind of thinned recipe. It's not as destructive as Guilliman Flesh is. Straight out the pot. And if you thin down Guilliman Flesh, it's still nice, but it's nowhere near as strong as Fyreslayer Flesh. One of the benefits to that is that if you do happen to get a little bit of this on, say, the red details, it kind of just looks okay, you know. You could do all of the brown and all of the red as well with this. It really suits it. But we're not going to be doing that on this one. So as you can see, everything is as it should be. Everything is Warhipster battle ready, excluding that banner. We're going to do it last, as I often like to do. But here we go. It's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with this. So now it's time to do what we always do around here. Take things to the next level by adding some layers and some highlights. So as usual, the place I like to start on my Stormcast is by redoing the armour. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the flat armour panels. Just like this. And we're looking to avoid any recesses. So for example, that kind of top concave of the armour panel. Do it again here. And avoid just kind of fully covering over the top of things like those rivets at the bottom. As you can see, it already makes that gold just absolutely shine and pop. Now when it comes to the slightly more narrower bits on, for example, our Stormcast themselves, we don't want to relayer this. We just want to avoid those, because we'll highlight those with a really bright metallic mix. So we're just going to do that, and then we're going to skip over to the head. Just like that sort of thing. We'd also have large kind of gold details on the chariot itself. For example, this large bit of trim here. Now this is similar to those ones on the Stormcast themselves, but it is that bit bigger, so we can actually get in here. We can add a relayer just going across the middle of the trim. Just like that. Same for the sigil on the front. We really just want to do the raised bit. So with all of that Retributor Armour reapplied, as you can see, we've got this lovely shine returned to all of the gold. However, we're now going to highlight it. I'm going to use a roughly 2 parts Stormhost Silver to 1 part Retributor Armour mix for this. And we're just going to start highlighting every bit of gold that we can see. So I'm just going to start here at the front and make my way back towards the rest of the model. You could of course start with the crew instead if you wanted to. That's perfectly fine. And I say all this, of course, forgetting about those 2 armor plates on the front of the Gryph-Chargers. See, it's easy to forget. I'll just get this little bit done. Like that. So with that done, all of the gold is now finished, and I think it looks spectacular. So what we're going to do now is move on to the next main colour of our Hammers of Sigmar, and that's all the blue. Now, we did talk about correcting any patchiness should you have it, and that's exactly what we're going to do next. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some Kantor Blue, and we're going to thin it right down with like 8 parts water, just loads and loads of water, so it's really, really thin, as you can see there on my thumbnail. And what we're going to do is we're just going to very carefully take this, and we're just going to apply this over the top of our blue panels, if you need to. So I don't think I really need to, but I promised I would show it. So we're just going to apply this like this, and what this will do is it will effectively act as a glaze that will smooth out any issues you may have. Can also just be a really good way to kind of punch up the colour. I appear to have got a blob of Nuln Oil on that flank. I have to dry brush a little bit more Wraithbone. Just to sort that out, you can see it just there. Just like that sort of thing. The area where you're most likely to need this is on this front guard. One thing you do want to watch out for is that you don't kind of drop this into any dark recesses, because it can sometimes flatten those out a little too much. But if that happens, you can just go in there with a little bit of a shade or some description, something like, well, just Ultramarines Blue again. You just blob that into the hole. As you can see, I've just done it there. I'm going to wash the brush and just come in and just grab it before it dries. Like that. And if you want to, you can use this on things like the cloaks. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Hoeth Blue, and we're going to use this to highlight all of the blue. This edge back here is probably the trickiest one to get to. Just because of the slightly skew-if angles you have to go at it. There we go, see, looks pretty good. One kind of cool little tip, if you do have a slightly difficult to reach angle, for example here, is if you can, rather than go past it to get the edge highlight, if you come at it to the tip and then move across, like that sort of thing. So you're kind of pushing the brush like this across the angle, rather than trying to get it at the angle and go like that. You're kind of, for example, just here, you'll see me do it. You're almost just pushing the brush forward like that. Get a nice clean edge that way. As for these triangles right down here, it's going to be a bit of brush gymnastics to get in there if you want to highlight them. And so with all that Hoeth Blue applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Fenrisian Grey. We're going to use this to pick out things like rivets and corners in all the blue. A little bit heavy just there. Just like this. We can also add a little bit of Fenrisian Grey going across the middle of this edge, and consequently this one. And on the cloaks, we want to add a little bit of this. towards the hem. So with that, all of the blue is now finished. So we're going to move on to the next colour, which is all of the white. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking some thinned down Corax White. I'm going to be using this to effectively relayer a lot of the white, but when it's tiny little details, we're not going to be doing it on there. So we're going to start here on this stuff on the front. And this is why we didn't worry too much about dealing with the corrections earlier. Because it's nicely shaded on areas like the capes, which is really where you need it. They're all good, apart from this relayering process. I've missed the edge just a little bit there, so I'm going to wash the brush. Come in there and grab it off like that. So we're going to do things like this. And including the inside of the capes. So what we're looking to do here is effectively relayer, but where it's really dark, we're going to avoid it. Just like that. And so with that Corax White all applied, we're then going to take some thinned down white scar. I'm going to use this to highlight all of those white details. So we'll come in here and we'll do it on here again. Just like this. That sort of thing. However, we do obviously have other white details. So for example, we have these shoulders, which we've done nothing to. And this is where we're going to start highlighting these. So with all of that white all done, we're now going to work on something a little bit easier, which is going to take some Blood Angels Red. I'm going to use this to paint in any of the little gems scattered around. They're mostly in areas like that, and on places like scabbards and weapons. But what we do have on the chariot is this large one just here. Slightly out of sequence here, but I want to get the face all finished, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Reikland Fleshshade. I'm going to use this now to shade the face. With that Reikland Fleshshade applied, we then take some thinned down Flayed One Flesh, and we use this to highlight all of the facial features. With that Flayed One Flesh applied, we then take some Black Legion, really tiny amount here, and we apply this over the top of the eyes. And so with that then done, we take a tiny, tiny little dot of Screaming Skull, and we apply this in both corners of each of the eyes. As well as over the teeth. So with that done, Gavriel's face is now finished, so we're now going to take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to highlight his hair, but also consequently all of the black details. And that sort of thing for the hair. We will come back and finish it obviously, but we do have the majority of our black details here on our Stormstrike Chariot. We're going to be using this for all of these, including the horns, claws, frame, straps, all of it. So, moving on once again, we're going to take some Cygor Brown. I'm going to use this to highlight all the brown leather that we did with Cygor Brown. This is mostly important for things like the Vigilors, because they've got the bows. Which also need to be highlighted with the brown. For example, on this gentleman here. Like that sort of thing. And so with that done, we now come to our final kind of big ticket highlight, which is going to be some thinned down Iron Breaker. I'm going to use this to highlight all the silver. Which there isn't actually loads of, to be fair. We do have the wheels. And the weapons and things like that. Belt buckles, that's another thing. But otherwise, you don't have tons of this to do. With the silver all done, we've just got 3 things in total left to do, because most of our Vanquishers and Vigilors are finished. The only thing left is, of course, the pennant on our Vanquisher here, and we've got the Gryph-Chargers, and we've got all the basics. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on the Gryph-Chargers first. There's only a couple of things we have to do here. The first is to take some Jokero orange, and we're going to gently dry brush this over the top of our darkest areas on all of the feathers. And with that done, we're then going to take a tiny little bit of Administratum Grey. We use this to highlight around the eyes. Like that. We're also going to use this to add some little spot highlights to the sharpest points on the horns. And so with that now done, we're going to take a very, very wee amount of Flash Kits Yellow. I'm going to apply this over the eyes. Just like that. They've got tiny little eyes. And then we take a small amount of Volupus Pink and we apply this over the tongue. And with that Volupus Pink applied, we're then going to take some Corax White. I'm going to use this to highlight the beak. And as a consequence, our Stormstrike Chariot will be finished. So the Stormstrike Chariot is now done. It is all finished. It looks amazing. However, we do have one last thing left to do, and that is the pennant. Now, the reason I've left this till last, and the reason why it's being pointed out, is because, well, the order of operations is really important for painting these. So I thought I'd demonstrate to you just how I do it and why. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the field of the flag. You don't want to kind of fiddle around with any of the more slightly difficult details, which can be things like the white here on the front. That can be tricky to do, but you don't want to mess around with it just yet, because what you want to do is work on the field first, and you want to start by identifying the easiest places to go. So this is the same color as the rest of the kind of blue, so we're going to start with some Talassar Blue, and we want to start just here in this bottom corner, and we want to apply this as cleanly as we possibly can. Painting flags like these is really an art in brush control. Just like that. Now, one thing you want to watch out for here is making sure you get these edges at the underside. This is a really, really obvious detail. Then we flip it over. And we do the other side. Like that. Like this sort of thing. Cool. So now we need to do the top edge, and that's basically the same case again. Like that. Make sure we've done the top, because this will be the most obvious one. Like that. Then we need to do the inside edge. Like this. Flip it round. And do this one. And this is where things can get a little bit tricky. There is a tiny, tiny little gap between the trim of the banner and these locks for it. It's easy to miss. There we go. So now comes the actual painting of the main part, which is this bit. So we're going to start under here. Like so. And then we need to kind of do the rest of it. I'm going to start just there. And we're going to pull it down like this. And it is all about kind of trying to find those stopping places. So we can get a really nice smooth finish on the banner. It's a little bit heavy just in here. It's just about okay. And then we've got this bit up here. So with that done, we're now going to take our roughly 4 parts Ultramarines Blue to 2 parts Contrast Medium mix, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of that blue. You now want to go at this in the same order as you started. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Corax White, and we're going to apply this over the top of the face here, using this as an opportunity to clean up our mistakes, of course. We want to get this all over. We're going to use this to also clean up any mistakes we might have made on the parchment. And give the parchment a full coating. And we're also going to use this to clean up the trim on the back, not on the front, just on the back. Then what we're going to do is take some skeleton Horde. I'm going to apply this over the top of those parchmenty bits, including the banner trail. And with that skeleton Horde applied, we then take some Apothecary White and we apply this over the top of the face and the trim on the back. And so with that done, it's now time to take some Retributor Armour and apply this over the top of the remaining detail. So with that gold all applied, we're then going to take Guilliman Flesh. I'm going to use this to shade it. So with that all done, the banner is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. So we're now going to highlight it and we're also going to relayer it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the white. And we're going to take some thinned down white scar and we're going to use this to highlight the face. On the kind of smaller details. However, on areas such as the kind of outside, what we want to do is we want to fully relayer this. until that kind of corner there, where it becomes a highlight, for like that, for example. Whereas on the back, what we're going to do here is we're going to fully relayer it with the white scar, rather than just a highlight. Because at this point you could probably swap to a slightly larger brush. So with that all done, the white is now finished and it looks cracking. So what we're going to do is going to go back to the gold. I mean, it's very similar here. What we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. We're going to use this to relayer the gold. But just on the kind of wide open bits. What you should see is a kind of, like that. See how the light catches? And so with that done, we're then going to take some Liberator Gold. We're going to use this in the corners where we haven't applied any Retributor Armour. With that done, the gold is finished, so then we take some Blood Angels Red. We apply this over the gem. And finally, just to finish it off, we're then going to take some Fenrisian Grey. I'm going to use this to highlight the blue, but not all of it. So what we want to do, we want to pick out the edges of the pennant. Like so. Like that sort of thing. But then on the actual banner facing, we want to just pick out a couple of the more prominent edges, like those there, those around the crest of the head, for example. This one just here. These ones here. And then on the back is a similar deal. So there we have it, guys. The whole lot painted. Our lovely Stormstrike Chariot. Our lovely Gavriel Sureheart. Vigilors. And Vanquishers. Looking great. Here's the other one, the Prime. However, normally if it's one of my armies, that would be the end of it. But there is the matter of the base. And that is how we're going to conclude things. whilst I clear everything out of the way. So for my Hammers of Sigmar, what I like to do is take some Stirland Mud or Stirland Battlemire, if you can find it. And apply this all over the top. With all that Stirland Mud applied, we then take some Gryph-Charger Grey. We apply this over the top of any rocks. Like that. And with that Gryph-Charger Grey applied, we then take some Tyrant Skull. A little too much on my brush there, and we use this to dry brush the entirety of the base. So with that all done, we now need to add some tufts, and I'm going to be using two different types of tufts. So what I've got here is I've got the mixed green 6mm tufts from Gamer's Grass, and I've got the tiny dry green 2mm tufts from Gamer's Grass. And I'm going to be applying a mixture of these across the base. So we're going to start here with the big ones, the 6mm. And we're going to go for 5 or 6 of these. We're just going to put them sparingly around the model. So we'll do 2 there, we'll reach right in, we'll put a 3rd one down there. Let's go for that one, put this one here, right at the front. And that's 4. Go for a 5th one there. Put a 6th one just here, and actually I think I'll go for 8 here. And go for that one. Pop that one like that. 8, 7, not 8. And we'll put the 8th one just here. And do you know what? We will stick a 9th one on there. No, do you know what? We'll go for 10. 10 whole tufts. Of course, you don't have to put as many of these as if you don't want to. I should put this one. Pop it right in here, like that. Then we're going to use the tiny tufts to fill in some of these gaps. And normally, kind of take these one at a time, but here, if you just peel away from you with your tweezers, if you're using tweezers, you can sometimes pick up several of them where the glue is kind of joined. There's kind of no limit here to how many of these. I mean, there's never any limit to any tufts whatsoever. And finally, to finish off the whole enterprise, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Abaddon Black. I'm going to paint this around the rim in 2 thin coats. So don't worry if the first one is a little bit patchy. That's okay, because you want to do it a second time afterwards anyway. So with everything done at the end of the day, the Hammers of Sigmar are now finished, as is my 2000 point army. Maybe I'll show that to you in a separate video. But for now we can bask in the reflected glory of their golden armour and various other things. I think they look fantastic. I really like the Hammers of Sigmar. Hallowed Knights are my favourite, and Celestial Vindicators in third, but these guys just so classic and I love them. Oh, I love painting gold. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.